Pro Audio Secrets, a show that helps you to find your own voice in sound. After so many years being successful in a career, when should I start?
Go ahead, follow your dreams, do it. One of the most important things is you always have to have. I would suggest anybody out there wanting to get into this to do. If you can't get hold of that, latch out to somebody who's. There are 4 pillars I'm investing in to make me successful.
Got you. That's a great thing.
And I'll always ask questions like, can I? And they'll usually say yes.
This is a great strategy. Or let's say there is no job on the table, there's no connection.
I would probably.
Great.
They'll be like, ooh. Exactly. People are going out of their mind for it.
That's already a big win. In this conversation, I talk with Ruvio, aka Ruven van Dart, who started his career in audio just recently, being in his late 40s, early 50s. This is a conversation you should listen to if you want to either change careers, which he did after 30 years being in IT, or if you're just starting out and you want some useful tips how to enter into the audio or maybe even any industry. Okay, let's get started with this great conversation I had actually on site here in the studio with Ruvio. Today, Ruven is here.
Hi, everybody.
A friend of mine, I can say now. We started off that I met you at SAE,
Yep.
where you were studying.
Correct.
And I did a Foley workshop there.
Yes. Yeah.
Like a presentation.
In the evening.
Yeah. And then we got to know each other. You reached out through my website and then you became one of my coachees, actually.
Correct. Yeah. And then I, after you'd helped me along and I learnt a few things, I then reached out again and you suggested I come by, and then I helped put some things on the wall, which are still there. And just been kind of looking over your shoulder the last few months at least, and kind of finding my feet in the world of Foley, predominantly focusing on games integration and Foley for games rather than TV and film, but Foley nonetheless, and audio creation, sound design, etc.
So let me know a little bit more about your context.
Right.
How did you get into sound? Like, is this something you do for a long time already? I mean, you studied at SAE not long ago.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. So how did you start studying there? Or like, what did spark your interest? And then also a little bit more about your background.
Sure. So as you can tell, I'm very, very young. I just finished school. And hence why I've just gone to the SAE to do not a diploma, but to do some modules for sound design.
Ruvio.
Yes.
Your name is Ruven.
My name is Ruven, correct.
But you call yourself Ruvio. That's an artist name as well, isn't it?
That's my old DJ name. That's my music production name. And for my sound design, I go by ruvioaudio.com. And that will be my kind of production sound design name going forward.
So tell me a little bit more about yourself and what are you doing at the moment and how did you get where you are at the moment?
Right. I've always been into music. I've always been a big fan of soul music, disco, house, hip-hop, old hip-hop stuff, jazz, drum and bass, various types of dance music. Growing up in England, this was quite prevalent and always around me. And at one time, about 30 years ago, yeah, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a rapper. And I quickly realized that I couldn't do this because my dad was ready to kick me out of the house and cut off all funds if I did pursue this.
Really?
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'll follow his suit. I'll go to university. I'll do something serious, normal, and get a job and maybe do music as a side hustle or whatever. I didn't really think about it. Whilst at university, though, I DJ'd more than I've ever DJ'd in my life. 4 times a week I was DJing, various clubs, bars, even in the student union. And I started dabbling into production. So I helped one of the girls with her musical. She made a musical based on Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake and incorporated elements of jungle, drum and bass, and breakdance. So I created some of the beats. All I had was a mini disc recorder and a record player and a very basic computer. I tried to make some samples and loop things. I also gave us some choreography tips because I once tried to breakdance many, many years ago when I was younger and slimmer. And this musical got picked up by Andrew Lloyd Webber, by their team, and the production pursued later on in Spain, which I wasn't part of. And then life basically continued, and I occasionally DJ'd now and again, but nothing serious, nothing came about it. And then I kind of ventured into the IT world. I've been working in the IT world basically for the last 30 odd years. And then Corona kicked in, and during COVID, I really got back into DJing. So I was doing a Friday Twitch session. I was DJing house for about 2 hours every Friday night, drinking copious amounts of wine whilst DJing and buying a lot of equipment. So I bought some new monitors and new stuff. And then I realized I might as well start back into production, this time properly, or at least dabble into the new technology. So I downloaded some tools and started playing around, and then I realized I really enjoyed making songs. I even wrote my own songs and sang them. Wasn't very good at singing, but I enjoyed this whole process. So I kind of stopped the DJing and started focusing on this.
On music production.
On music production, yeah. At the same time, I then had a 4-day week at work, which gave me ample time to concentrate on making music for 1 day a week. And I really got into this. And eventually it got to the point, there were some redundancies going on at work. And I decided to grasp one of the redundancies, took a package and thought to myself, I'm now 50 years old. I might as well try it, give it a go. Because otherwise, if I don't, I'm going to be continuing down the same road. And I'll never know if I can actually become either a successful musician, or, as the company I was working for had a large gaming studio background, I decided to talk to some people and find out, is it feasible for me to do some schooling, to find out the tools, the tips of the trade, and get into this kind of audio work for games. Basically, it was green light from the manager who I had an interview with, and then I continued.
So let me recoup. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You started out as a young man wanting to pursue music as a career.
Yep.
And your father stopped you. Kind of,
yeah.
And then you ended up being at university studying something else, but you were more than ever into music by DJing and doing stuff for other people's musicals and whatnot.
Yep.
And then you never pursued the career of music, but worked in IT for many years.
Yep.
Made a career there.
Correct.
And then when COVID hit, you decided to re-engage in music and started to DJ again, doing live streams on Twitch, and then buying equipment and starting your own music production journey kind of thing.
That's right.
Because you have a strong musical background with black music and also electronic music.
Yep.
And you said that there was an opportunity to get out of the job, or what was this? You basically quit your job in order to really start the music thing over.
Correct. Yeah, there was an opportunity. Basically, there were those redundancies taking place, and I just put my hand up and said, hey, how about you making me redundant? I'll take the package and I'll see if I can go to school. And then did some research. So I didn't just jump ship straight away without thinking about it. I thought this through. As I said, I spoke to some people in the industry. They kind of gave me the green light and said, go for it. Age isn't a problem. If you're good and you have a good portfolio, that's all we care about. And then I looked into colleges, looked at the Music Academy, I think, or Pop Academy, which has since then gone insolvent, and then looked at the SAE. I asked them, look, I don't want to do a diploma. I just want to do a few courses. Can I? They said yes. So I thought, this is God talking to me. And then I went ahead, paid for those courses, did the classes, met you, got involved with this, and I'm not looking back, Yeah. And I've decided not to concentrate on Foley because the whole working process with regards to film and TV isn't really my thing yet. But there's more to the audio world than just Foley for TV. So I'm still interested in games, integration of effects, sound effects, Foley, etc. for games. I'm interested in the production side of podcasts and also audio dramas. So creating the audio dramas with my own stories, recording them, adding my own Foleys and sound effects to audio dramas, even turning them into kind of immersive experience. So I enjoy doing that, but I'm still really into music production, and I'm concentrating also on producing one song every week, one house track every week, getting it out there, one produced, two uploaded to labels just to see if I can get anywhere, and three, this helps me learn and master the audio creation process, which also has a spillover into sound recording, Foley, sound design for either the games, podcast, or the audio dramas.
And you said this was going on starting with the beginning of COVID.
Yes.
So for how long are you into this process now? Or when did you quit your job actually? And when did you really start to focusing on that mainly?
So approximately 2 years this month is when I handed in my notice, quit my job. The last year I've been really learning lots about audio, about microphone technology, about the basics basically of that, about various digital audio workstations, how they're all different, how Foley works, how sound effects works, game implementation, integration. Been touching on all those areas, but approximately 2 years before that, so from about the start of COVID, that's when I first started with Ableton and got into music production and got myself a keyboard and got some microphones and started singing rather badly. But I use singing, for example, even though I can't sing and hold a note very well, I use it as an instrument to get me into a melody. That's the way I kind of encourage my brain and create a melody out of singing. So,
and this whole musical being of yourself,
yeah.
Was this kind of nurtured in your childhood, or how was it for you growing up? You mentioned your father being a bit rigid maybe.
Well,
because I can relate kind of, because I did that, you know. I quit school and I started pursuing a career as a rapper.
Right.
I actually did that.
Okay, cool.
And my father really wasn't for it, but nevertheless he gave me 5,000 euros in order to start something.
Wow.
And with that money I started my first recording studio, you can say, at age 18.
Nice.
And I was really never expecting that from my father, but I appreciate it up until this day.
Yeah.
So what was your upbringing in terms of music, and how was you kind of, also in terms of family?
Yeah, sure. So my dad, originally from Sri Lanka, joined the British Army when he emigrated to England in the early 60s. He then met my mother in Germany. But my dad's base in England is London, and I have various cousins. So I didn't have any brothers and sisters at the time. I did have, though, 5 cousins, and some of them were quite into music. And growing up in England, or growing up in London in the 70s, 80s, a lot of the people there were really into their soul and to the early stages of hip hop. Before it was really hip hop, it was rap, you know, that kind of period. And about that time, I was about 10 years old, early 80s. I was really influenced by heavy metal because that's what the kids were listening to where I was living, you know, the army kids. When I went to London to see my cousins, they were like, "You're not listening to this. Yeah, we've got some good stuff for you." So they gave me this tape. I remember it today, a yellow tape, Houdini's Magic Wand. And the song on there was called Friends, later sampled by Nas. And I loved this track. This was my first, you know, introduction to rap music, and I used to sing it and rap it all the time. And through that, I got into other rap songs like The Whistle The Whistle, I think, was the name of the band. Bugging Out was the name of the tune, and various other kind of early stuff, Marley Marl and Melly Mel and all these kind of names. And then eventually into Public Enemy, Run DMC, and all the 90s stuff which followed on. But my dad also, at the time, he had a big Sanzui record player and amplifier. And every time on the weekend, he'd get up at 8 o'clock or whatever, 9 o'clock. He would always put the radio on. And it'd be either BFBS or it'd be one of his records. And he was really into like blues, like Shadows and B.B. King. But also into Prince and also into reggae. I say reggae. He loved Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. And he'd play a lot of that. So, and it was always loud. There was always music in the household. And this combined with my love for rap and wanting to know more, and him not being against me listening to music, was kind of how I got into music. I just liked having music around me, and of course a special style, urban black style music. Even though black music wasn't a thing back then, it was just, you know, soul, disco, even early house, acid sort of stuff, and hip hop and R&B. And then the older I got, the more I was into that. I'd go to clubs, parties, R&B parties, do lots of dancing. I tried my hand at breakdancing. I tried my hand at sort of certain dances and stuff, and had people around me who were into the same kind of music, and then we'd do it together and go into clubs and that. And then I had a large record collection. I say large, it was about 4 times that size. And people were like, why don't you DJ? And I was like, I don't know. He said, well, you got the records. I just needed the record players. So I bought me these cheap record players and I tried DJing, and it didn't really work, but it kind of stuck in my head. So I continued it. And then at college in London, I was really into hunting for jazz samples with my friends who we wanted to rap, of course. So we'd go to theirs and write lyrics and get obscure jazz samples and, you know, put it on, and, you know, like, and you turn that into a sample and you sort of make rhymes over it. So we thought we could get somewhere. You know, we were really big into the artifacts and that kind of rap. And then my dad he loved the fact, I think, that I was into music, because he would sometimes listen to my tapes. I remember one day he hated the NWA tapes because they were always swearing, but I'd get back in the car a couple of days later and the tape would be further on in the album. And I'd be like, Dad, you've been listening to my music? And he's like, no. I go, yes, you have. He goes, yeah, it's quite funky, actually. So he listened to it and he did like it. He liked the original samples that they were using and stuff. And back then I didn't know anything about the music business. I didn't know what to expect. And I think most people who listen to music don't understand the business either. So he was like, son, I want you to go to university, because our family never went to university. I want you to be successful and get a decent job, something with security, something for the future. So in hindsight, what he did was actually right, because now with IT, I can always get a job. And I never gave up my passion for music. And I really got into DJing when I was at university, and I bought myself 1210s, and I really forced myself and asked friends to teach me to beat mix even better, and, you know, observed and learned and kind of got into that even more.
During your career in IT?
No, during university. So
Yeah.
4 years studying in England, well, 3 years and 1 year living in Germany as a student, because I studied German, funnily enough. And that kind of, I was just always around people in music. I'd always go to record stores, talk to people. Have you got this tune? Have you got this? And they'd be like, oh, no, we don't, but this guy might have. And just kind of socialize and network and kind of get into the scene that way. And I'd occasionally be around somebody's house. He might have an Akai sampler and Cubase, and we might play around with a few samples. But that's as far as production ever got. And then even this musical that I did at university, it wasn't really production. It was a mini disc recorder with an A-B repeating a loop. Then Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake on the record, which I'd occasionally spin back and then looping it that way. And then, you know, so really rudimentary.
Using the tools of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the thing that maybe got lost on the way? Because I understand you that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you, after university, the whole music thing went a little bit more down, and you only started after many years to ramp it up again.
Well,
So what happened in that gap?
I was still DJing after university. I would still try and do a night now and again. And I lived in Munich for a bit, and I DJed a bit more there. And then the thing is, though, I'd moved on from the music I was listening, so I was no longer into the rap. I would listen to it at home, but I was more into dance music. So it went from, at university, it kind of moved into disco and house, and then lots of, or acidy kind of stuff. And then it moved into jungle, drum and bass. And then I moved into UK garage. But this kind of sound wasn't being heard in Germany, and I would always move to Germany for jobs. So I was having trouble. So I'd want a DJ, and I'd say to people, this is what I play. And they'd say, come and DJ, but they didn't understand the music. So I was getting pushback because, unfortunately, I believe the Germans weren't very open for modern styles of dance music. They knew what they thought they knew, and that was what they wanted to hear. But I would always listen to other things and have, you know, test presses and dubs from England, and they weren't into that. But I tried to continue DJing nonetheless, and then kind of moved more into the house, because that's what more people were listening to and able to listen to when I DJ'd. But I was also getting quite a bit of pushback, and I didn't really put that much energy into it, because I had a full-time job. So I was only doing this, you know, on the weekends, and it would occasionally give me some money, but more times than none, it would just give me drinks
So it was a passion that you
Yeah.
kept on pursuing,
Yeah.
but you never made a real intention to have that become your career again.
Not as a DJ, because I had a couple of friends who one of them is a successful DJ in Germany, and his life is basically just travel, fly to a club, play for 2 hours, fly to the next club, play for 2 hours. And to be honest, I didn't like that lifestyle. Funnily enough, though, I ended up at work getting into IT sales, where I was traveling around as well, but I'd be there for a week rather than 2 hours. So the traveling passion, I kind of still had that. But no, at home I played music. I loved listening to music. I'd always play loud stuff in the car, even at home. And music was always there. I'd never get rid of music in my life. I'd always collect records or even CDs, or later it was just, I don't know, MP3s, but I'd still occasionally buy 12-inch vinyl. And it's always been part of me. But Corona gave me the opportunity to buy more equipment and really let me focus on something. Because at that time, everybody was focusing on a hobby. And I just thought, well, that's the only hobby I want to focus on. I'm going to put all my energy into music. And then it was like a natural progression from DJing into production, because I wanted to remix things. It was digital, it was easier, the equipment was cheaper, and through a couple of €100, you could basically remix nearly every song. So that's kind of what got me into it then.
All right. This whole process of being into a normal job, let's say, for all those years, I assume enabled you to become financially stable in a sense.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah, through all those years. So,
Yeah.
so that might have made it easier for you in the end to make the transition and to take this leap of faith and to be that bold in order to say, okay, let's do this now. I mean, I really admire that, step after so many years being successful in a career, being also accommodated to maybe the lifestyle, then saying, no, this is my passion, and if I don't do it now, when should I start? So let's rather start now than never.
Well, there's an element of that, of course, definitely, but also the fact of at a tender age of 50, you're kind of more mature. You know what you're good at. You know definitely what you're not good at. And as you said, you've got some kind of financial stability. But at the same time, I also had a partner who's willing to support me. She never ever said from the beginning, no. She said, go ahead, follow your dreams, do it. So having that kind of support in the background helped me. And then also the fact of getting the payout from work helped me as well. I mean, if I hadn't got any money from work, I would have probably not pursued this career, because, to be honest, at the age of 50, to do this is initially a hobby. Let's be straight. Me going to school, paying for the school, me buying equipment, me spending the next couple of months living off nothing, trying to build a brand, at least hopefully make something of myself. You need to have some kind of financial stability. Now, I don't have a rich family. I haven't won the lottery, as far as I know. So I don't have that much money sitting back, but I've got enough to kind of, if I choose to spend it wisely, I can live for the next 6 months. And I'm giving myself the opportunity for the next 6 months to get to know some customers, to help do some audio design for games, or help them on podcasts, or write an audio drama with them. So if there's anybody out there looking for somebody to do those things, I'm your man. But at the same time, concentrate on production and get stuff out there. So I'm being realistic, I think, in giving myself this goal, but fully understanding and aware of those years of working in the IT. If nothing happens out of this, I can hopefully roll back and go back into IT and say this was a lovely hobby-esque sabbatical, which nobody can take away from me.
And how was your experience throughout your learning process? Aside from doing actual projects with other people, you invested a little bit of money, for example, the SAE, you did my coaching. So what was your experience, and what do you recommend others that maybe also want a career change and have a little bit of budget?
Training, the official training, whether it be the SAE or having courses like yours, are very beneficial, giving you some hands-on experience. However, I think one of the most important things is creation, is content creation, is sticking to it, constantly doing something. Whether the first 5-10 tunes you make aren't the best, doesn't matter. Get it out there. Optimize your process. Understand what the market wants. Understand what you can offer the market. With me, I did some Foley work with you. I realized I couldn't be as fast as you. I didn't have the environment or the props to be able to fully sustain a Foley environment and Foley studio at work or at home. I realized though, there are certain things I learned from you which I can take away and use in other areas, whether it be creating sound effects or mixing Foleys with sound effects to make some kind of structured sound. I can use these elements, but understand that from everything that you learn, you always have to have a larger element of dedication and continuous, I'd say continuous learning, but from your own side.
Yeah, doing the thing.
Exactly, doing it. But you need to have a bit of both. So you need to understand the basics, of course, and that's what the schooling part was. That was what your tuition was for me. And the school, it taught me the basics. It taught me what I need to focus on. And then now it's about me focusing on these certain areas and getting better at the work process and the workflow.
And what was the difference between getting the basics, let's say, from a school and from me as a professional that works in the industry one-to-one?
Right. Good question. So the basics at school were really the basics, the fundamentals. This is the microphone. This is the type of microphone. This does that. You need to do this to get this result. With you, it was past that. It was not only do you need the microphone, but let's set this up specifically to make sound for steps. Yeah, you need a different floor. You need a different environment here. You need to concentrate on your transients, for example, or on the reverb or on certain elements. So you went into specifics. The school was more about a general kind of knowledge and general understanding of the fundamentals rather than going into detail.
So you appreciated both of these types of education, or would you rather, if you could do it again, stick more to people like me, or you would rather more invest into the schools, or what is your thinking about that?
Well, the advantage of a school, especially a lot of younger people out there maybe thinking about doing it, they might not have the financial means. So the school is great because they have equipment. They have all the digital equipment. They have the physical equipment like microphones. They have the rooms. They even have people who want to do it as well, so you can work with teams. I think you need that when you're starting out, especially if you've had no previous experience with either working on yourself or working in studios or doing things. You need that community around you to help you. Your training is definitely more of a personal thing where it's a one-to-one kind of training. But for your training, you need to have microphone. I need to have this and this and this set up, or at least bought at home, to be able to follow your steps. You don't need that at the SAE. So I would suggest anybody out there wanting to get into this to do both. I would say get your fundamentals down through a college, and then get yourself either into a kind of work environment through your kind of tuition or some kind of work placement or some kind of traineeship or apprenticeship somehow if you can. If you can't get hold of that, latch out to somebody who's in the industry like yourself, do their course and see if you can learn from them, from their YouTube videos, from their Instagram reels. Try little things now and again, but always with the opportunity of being able to ask questions into the industry. In my case, you and other people I'm learning on the way.
Quick one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I ask you of that favor, please do so. Either on YouTube or anywhere where you listen or watch this, because it really helps the channel to grow. And as you know, the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests will get. And thank you very much for listening to that podcast and being with me on the journey. So let's continue with the conversation. I also think that this is a great development that we have now, that people share a lot of stuff, a lot of knowledge from their industry experience online, whether through YouTube or short format, because the traditional way of interning in a studio gets harder and harder. And also back then it was not easy to get somewhere as an apprentice or as an intern to be there, you know?
Yeah.
But I think still this is very valuable, because my experience was that people that finished the school and then entered the industry, okay, it's a valid path, but when they enter the industry, they have to really learn the processes within the industry from scratch again. They maybe know a little bit here and there about microphones and about DAWs, and the whole topic is not new to them.
Mm.
But if you go to the specifics, for example, if you do sound effects editing for a movie and you studied at film school, you might not even know that for a shooting scene with guns and weapons, you need a lot of different weapon handling. You need all the bullets that fall down. You need the impacts and the ricochet sounds. You need to add all these sounds to the scene.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe you don't know that from your university. So some people enjoy university, some other people enjoy more the practical thing. I'm certainly more the practical person. So me doing this apprenticeship and not being accepted at university was winning the lottery for me personally,
Right.
because I also started out a little bit later in my life. You know,
Okay.
I tried to pursue this rapper career for almost a decade,
Okay.
and then eventually developed into becoming a sound effects editor.
Yeah.
So for me, I saved a lot of time by just doing an apprenticeship for 2.5 years. Before that, interning, but then I was ready for the industry.
Yeah.
And then I trained people who studied at that university I wanted to study in
Right.
after finishing my apprenticeship. And they maybe started this whole film sound journey a couple of years earlier than me, but I ended up training them after they finished their diploma
Okay.
after 6 years, because it was an official German university, masters, whatever. It took a long time to finish that study.
Right.
So that is my take on this whole thing. But yeah, as this is harder and harder to get certain vacancies in a studio as an intern or whatnot, those schools make sense. And if I may finish this thought, I think the schools only make sense if you really invest your time properly.
Definitely.
You don't go there just for the things that you have to sign up.
No.
You do things on top. You make every minute count that you have access to those studios. You make
Correct.
every connection that you can possibly do, not only with your peers, also with the teachers,
Yep.
because they might be in the industry. Do you have other recommendations for people who want to study at a school, what they could do in order to get the most out of it?
I would say one of the most important things is move out of your comfort zone. So when I entered the SAE in last year in September, I'd made songs before. So when they said in the first module, you need to make a song, I said, no, I want to make Foley. And they're like, Foley? You've never done Foley? I said, exactly. I said, it can't be that much different to making a song. You've got the mixing and you've got the mastering and you've got the sounds and you've got the video part, but you've still got it in the box production. So they said, okay, yes, let's try that. And I did that. And then in the second module, I decided to do a audio drama with Foley and sound effects instead of a song as well. So I've always tried to do more than just making the musical part, but also the sound design part too, to learn the most out of it.
But what was your thinking in the beginning? Because many people want to just be part of the music industry.
Yeah.
And they go to SAE and they make a music production kind of thing out of it, and that's what they end up with. Did you already sense that just being in the music might not cut the thing for you as an adult to make the
Yeah.
financial impact that you had with your IT job? So did you plan already in diversify your skill set in audio, or did you even just thought that the sound effects thing will pay the bills and therefore you focused on it?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I thought that the musical part, making the songs, I can do that myself at home without real much training. To a certain extent, that's true. But there are transferable skills in making music, which can be used for Foley, sound effects, game, audio, sound design. But I wanted to know a bit more about this. And the thing that I've learned, and this is one of the things that happens in life when you get older and you learn more and you have more experience, is you realize not necessarily what you're good at doing or what you want to do, but the opposite. What aren't you that good at doing, or what don't you want to do? And then you learn certain processes, you learn certain fields of expertise, and then you think, that's not really my cup of tea. And that's what I've noticed here as well. It's like, yeah, the audio, the production I like, the sound design in the box, so the with the synthesizer and creating weird sounds, I like that. Doing all the Foley stuff, to a certain degree it's fun, but the process behind it with the film TV, I'm not yet there. So I've learned that, and therefore I know now I can focus on other things, and I can.
So you try to eliminate things that you don't want to do by forcing yourself into certain fields that are not in your comfort zone to find out
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
working for me, this is not so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. So I'll move out of my comfort zone, do something challenging and new, and then if it doesn't feel right, I'll be like, okay, I've tried it. It's not really my thing. What can I take out of there that I can still use for the other things around me? So in this case, Foley and sound effects. What can I take out of that which I can use maybe in music? So one of the things I learned was having more than one microphone set up. So now sometimes when with a percussion or whatever, I'll have different microphones, and you sometimes get funny effects. And that's like a knock-on effect from with the Foley with the various microphones.
But let's focus on the money side.
Right.
So what was your strategy in terms of you want to make a career out of this?
Yeah.
And you want to therefore go to SAE and maybe book a coaching with me.
Yeah.
What was your strategy and what was your kind of lining up? Like, what did you aim for? What should be the outcome of this period of learning and ending up in that career in audio?
So my thoughts with this: I do the basic training at SAE. I do some industry apprenticeship style learning through you or through other people. I build up a basic set of knowledge regarding sound design, and then I give myself about 6 months to look for a job.
But why sound design and not music?
Well, to me, they're not exclusive. When I make music, it's sound design. See, I'm not the person who sits there with the guitar and sings a song. I'm the person who sits there in front of nothing, an empty template, and decides what kind of beat am I going to make? What kind of synthesizer bassline sound? What kind of weird sound am I going to add? So I'm using sound design in my creative process.
And did you already focus on that in a sense that if I'm learning sound design, I can maybe improve my skills as a music producer, but also be able to work in that kind of field within audio?
Yeah, totally. Because I believe they come hand in hand. If you create music, electronic music, you're automatically doing sound design. So whether you're playing around with a synthesizer or a sampler, you're creating new sounds.
And where did you expect to be more financially successful?
To be honest, I don't yet know. I'm just going to take it as it comes. As I said, there are 4 pillars I'm investing in. So let's put it this way. There are 5 pillars I look at in the audio world. There's music, there's podcast, there's games, there's Foley for TV, and there's audio dramas. So through working with you and through doing various Foley little side projects with you, I've realized that the Foley TV stuff is not yet on my list. I might get into it in the future, but at the moment, I'm not fast enough. It doesn't interest me that much. The games part looks interesting. I've done a bit of audio for some people at school. I really enjoy, working with the developers, that whole project management, which I did in my IT. I like that combination of creativity and project management with a certain timeline. That's great. Podcasts, I like the technical aspects of setting things up. So helping other people achieve their goals through experimenting with various microphone setups, with the digital audio workstation, etc., etc. Great. Audio dramas, I like writing stories. I seem to be okay. I wouldn't say good, but I'm okay at creating my own stories, recording them, putting Foley. So that's where I'm utilizing the Foley skills and sound effect skills. But as I'm creating something myself, I know the expected sound that I'm trying to create. So that's the other part. And then I thought to myself, music. I still want to do music. So I don't have, in that sense, a plan of which one is going to be the one to give me a living, to make me successful. I'm looking at, first of all, using all 4 and seeing what projects I can get hold of, whether it's production for musical production, games audio production and implementation, audio drama creation production, or podcast production. And they all have transferable skills. So I'm using the same tool for all of them. I'm using my same kind of the things I listen to and the way I work is very similar across them. So I think there are opportunities there to bundle this knowledge and follow those 4 pillars.
So first of all, to get that out of the way, you didn't kind of have that maybe vision of a younger man to, okay, I always wanted to do music. Now is the time to become a producer and nothing else. You started from the beginning on looking in the whole realm of sound, and you were okay to work in other fields as well.
Correct. Because the older you get, the more you realize that putting all your eggs in one basket can work when you're younger, because a lot more time is ahead of you. You've got a lot more dedication, maybe you've got a lot more energy you can put in. But when you get a bit older, you sometimes realize that actually you need to sometimes work on a parallel. You need to have 2 things going, or at least use transferable skills amongst those pillars.
Okay. Got you. Now, you have decided to pursue those 4 things you just mentioned.
Yep.
How do you want to now get the focus on what works and what not?
Good question. I'm not too sure. What I'm doing is talking to people. So, for example, one of the things I do is wherever I'm at. So, for example, I was in the gym about a month ago, getting changed, and this one guy was on the phone talking to a music producer saying, "Have you finished my song? I need it for the podcast." And I thought to myself, perfect guy to talk to. So I introduced myself to him, told him what I do, and said, how about us maybe working together? He had then asked me out to have a chat with him at another time. So we met, we had a longer chat. He showed me or played me his podcast. He played me his music. I then showed him what I do.
So you just introduced yourself to someone, a stranger.
Correct.
And then made a connection and landed
a follow-up. Yeah, a follow-up meeting. He then showed me what he does. I then showed him what I do. He then sent me a file to test. I cleaned it up. I did some changes, sent it back. He was totally happy with it. And now he wants me to do another podcast with him. At the moment, there is no money coming from this because he's an up-and-coming podcast artist himself. But the way I look at it, that's exactly where I need to be right now. Because 1, I'm not experienced. 2, I don't know the world, the podcast world. So I need to make connections. And if I can help somebody move up the list, move up the ladder of podcast success, then I'm hoping that either I can help him and we can become successful together, or somebody will go, "Ooh, what Reuven does is good. Maybe I need to ask him to help me become more successful."
Okay, I think this is a great strategy. Let's say you pursue on this path and you go out in the world and you make connections, you try to network. What are your other channels of networking?
Reaching out to people in the industry. So I use LinkedIn quite a lot.
But how do you reach out?
So what I'll sometimes do is see what projects they're working on. Some of these guys in the industry are within certain forums and groups like Airwiggles, and see what they're up to. And then there are usually like Airwiggle competitions, or somebody says, "Hey, I'm just re-recording something. Can you give me some input, some help?" I could look in that and I can discuss and network and maybe work on a project together. I haven't yet worked on a project, but occasionally I reached out, or I'll read some of the comments and see if I want to get engaged.
Okay, that's already great that you made the effort and find Airwiggles in the first instance. I think this is a great platform for anyone who wants to do something within game audio.
Right.
And then you interact with other people that are at your level and helping them out. That is again something of mutual benefit.
Yeah.
If they make it, they remember you, and then you can start something together.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. And how do you approach professionals through LinkedIn?
To be honest, I usually write them a little short summary of what I've done, where I've come from. And I've usually seen them in a video before or heard them in a seminar. And I will always ask a question there so they know who I am. So they don't think, who is this guy out of the blue? And I'll always ask questions like, can I contact you later on? And they'll usually say yes. And then I'll do a follow-up. I'll say, for example, so this one lady who was at the SAE, she was a freelance instructor, freelance teacher. She did a session about audio dramas, and she told us what to be aware of. And then I asked her in the class, when I finished my audio drama, would you mind reviewing it for me and giving me some tips? She said no. So of course I've now finished it. I sent it to her. She's reviewed it and given me a huge list of tips. And through this, I can hopefully, like we did, come into contact and exchange and maybe help her with something, and she can maybe help me further. So I'm kind of leveraging people I meet and connect with to work with them initially on a free base level or learn from them. And,
Okay.
you know,
Great. I think everything you do is very good. For example, I think bringing value to someone who is already professional and working and busy and is very important, because you said you reach out to someone you already know and making sure that they understand you have maybe met before, or you set up something before in order to hook up the thing that you set up when you met them, so that the message online really resonates with them.
Yeah.
This is Reuven, I know him from my class. Now he's coming through with the thing he said.
yes.
Yeah. And then what you ask is basically feedback. So a teacher might even appreciate that. So the value in it for the teacher is that he can do his thing, or her thing, what they like,
Yeah.
giving knowledge out to
Correct.
others.
Yeah.
So there's the benefit for them. And also with me, of course, you booked my course, so there was a money exchange, which was a benefit for me.
Yeah.
And not finishing on that point when we finished the coaching, I mean the business was done. You got your knowledge, I got my money, I got my satisfaction through teaching you and seeing your results. You further then kept continuing the connection and the value exchange. So you offered, for example, to come here and intern for a day and help me with whatever I need.
Yeah.
And actually I needed someone who helped me with like installing the absorption panels on the wall. So you did that.
Yeah.
So our connection went deeper and deeper as we got more time to spend together. And that's actually exactly what I would suggest to everyone if they want to get to in touch with professionals, to give out value to them.
Yeah.
So do you have an inclination of how you could give value to someone who don't know and who doesn't know you?
So depending on where they are with their sonic career, as it were, their audio career.
Let's say you want to approach someone who is very high up, who's very busy.
Okay, so what I've done it the more classical way. So for example, there are a few companies out there. There's some audio agencies. I've first of all researched if anybody directly in my circle of friends is in connection with them. Then I will create some kind of introductory letter, and I will apply the old school way through with a CV and with a cover letter, and explain
But
to
this
them.
is only to open positions.
Not necessarily, no. So I've done it to an agency and done it to 2-3 companies where there weren't any positions going, just because I was interested. So I did some research on their website. I listened to some podcast, not podcast, it was a YouTube video of what they'd done. I listened to their show reel. So I kind of understood the direction they were going. And I just reached out to them and said, hey, I really like your stuff. This is where I've come from. I'm really strong into project management, but also I want to be a sound designer. Is there a position maybe which can leverage both elements? Because I've realized those 30 years of project management, I can't ignore them. They are part of me. That's why I'm quite good with developers, because I can understand the pain that they go through and how they work. At the same time, I'm good at delivering. And when I say I'm going to deliver something, I'll deliver it. So leveraging those two elements, I write that in my cover letter and I approach the companies, hopefully with one of them coming back to me. Now, 2 of them have come back to me. Both of them have said, sorry, we don't have any positions available. However, thank you very much for your interest in us. And we like the fact that you've researched us. And one guy wants to even talk to me next week. So it's about making the connection, but maintaining the connection as well. Even if I might not have anything to offer them straight away, letting them understand who's Reuven. You know, what does Reuven have to bring to the table? And usually a note doesn't do justice to that. But when somebody does come back to you, you can then talk to them on the phone if there's an offer on the table, and then they'll learn a lot more of how you interact, how you talk, and they realize.
I get it.
Hopefully,
I get it. my question remains: what do you do with professionals who, let's say, work at a big games company? Like, you want to talk to an audio director who worked on your favorite game, or not even that, you just want to be part of that team, or you want to, start out in that company or in a company that is like that. So let's say there is no job on the table, there's no connection, and you just want to be in touch with someone who can maybe potentially, give you something that you want, whatever it is.
I would probably, and I haven't actually done much of this yet, but go to some trade fair, like the Gamescom, for example. They might be there. Do some research on LinkedIn or even Instagram or other social media places. They might be active. If they're active, comment on maybe one of their comments or one of their posts. See if you can engage. You want to be able to make them aware of you.
Before you actually DM them.
Exactly. And then maybe if there is a kind of rapport, then you could, DM them and see if they're willing to give you the time of day, maybe for a quick call. Or maybe if you're in the vicinity and okay, there's a trade fair happening here and they're going to be there, maybe go up to them. I mean, I've done that in the past with my IT work where I was in sales. I would research people, and at a certain trade fair, I'd go up to them and go, by the way, you're the guy who did this post, aren't you? And be like, yes, remember I commented, yes. And then you've automatically triggered in their mind, you are somebody who's giving them some time and some thought about them, and then you're interacting with them and you can discuss things with them. Actually, finally the other part, I've been doing this networking with the musical side. So not only am I creating songs every week and uploading them to the label demo websites, there are a couple of people I know in England, DJs, and there are some other fans, other successful DJs I follow, and some of them I interact with on Instagram and they reply back. And I've actually asked a couple of these guys, hey guys, I've made these tracks. Could you maybe play them in a club or next time you're out and give me some feedback, how they resonate? Would you mind? And they've turned around and said, sure, free tracks, anytime we'll play them. Because at the end of the day, they are getting something for free. They're getting a track from me, which might go off in the club and they'll be like, ooh, this is great.
I'm the only one who has that track.
Exactly. And then hopefully they can get back to me and say, hey, the feedback is this track's going off. People are going out of their mind for it. Or actually, it's a bit weak. It's killed the dance floor. Great. Brilliant feedback. It's better to ask for that kind of feedback from the crowd than your friends, because your friends will always like your music.
But you still give value to that DJ.
Yes.
By giving him the option or the chance of having something exclusive for them.
Correct.
So, yeah, I really appreciate all the things that you said.
Thank you.
And I think you're doing a lot of right things. From what I can say from our coaching, I think that the main thing I wanted to stress after giving you the fundamentals is really doing the work. Yeah, doing every day, grinding on the subject that you want to pursue. Because just by learning or interacting with people, maybe you get to a certain point that they would offer you something, but then you have to deliver the skill set.
Yeah.
So if you really want to be in the sound world and not project managing, but working hands-on, you need the hours in the craft, right?
Sure.
So did you take that to heart and really pursue on it since we went off our coaching?
To a certain degree, yes, but less so on the Foley sound effects. Well, more into the musical production side of things, funnily enough. And
you now have the goal of releasing one song every week, right?
Exactly. So for me, content is king, and creating one track every week. Through that, though, I'm learning, say, for example, different synthesizer tools and how to really use them. And at the same time, the more I use them to make a song, the more in the back of my mind I know, oh, actually, I could make this into some kind of sound effects for a rocket ship.
So now you are transitioning your knowledge all the time as you pursue it.
Yeah, but I'm focusing more on music because, as I said, I don't want to do Foley TV video stuff at this moment in time. I want to concentrate on the music, the audio dramas and the podcasts and the games. So I've got people who are in these worlds who need content from me, and I'm delivering content to them as much as possible and using these transferable skills. I mean, at the end of the day, music is my focus. Let's not lie about this. It's my focus. It's where I see myself for the future as a producer in a production kind of environment. But at the same time, I don't want to ignore the other elements which can leverage skills I use with production, whether it be in the audio drama or it be in the games.
So you want to basically use your skill set of, I think you're really good in networking from what I could just hear, because everything you said is kind of, how do you say it, out of the Lehrbuch.
Okay.
Like from the school books, like that's how you should do it, right?
Right.
And you got that skill by being you and by also working in sales, I assume.
Yep.
So you're leveraging that, and then by making the connections, you now focusing on whatever comes up you want to deliver,
Yes.
and you want to meet with people at your level,
Yep.
so that the expectation is not too high for you to deliver.
Not just at my level, but
I mean, for example, you connect someone who works in AAA, and of course you cannot really convince the person that you're just starting out and you can deliver the assets for this specific thing that is very tricky just right away with the first instance.
But what I can do is let them experience me and how my professionalism towards working as a team member, working within that, environment, that entire sound environment, that games environment. So it's not just the audio people, it's the games developer people.
Yeah, but you rather reach out than maybe to indie developers first.
Yes.
And you don't go to Bethesda and
Well, if I get to know one of these guys, I will still reach out to them. So I'm not shy regarding where they are in the food chain, as it were, but I wouldn't lie to them. I wouldn't speak to a AAA director and say, I've done 6 AAA games and I'm brilliant, I did all the GTA sounds. No, I would say to them, if we were ever talking, this is what I've done in the past, this is where I want to go. Is there an opportunity within your realm where I can start off and maybe...
This is what I can offer right now.
Exactly, and maybe
So
I
for
can help
example,
you later on down the line.
like an idea, what I know from my personal experience in our team at Ubisoft, we were like desperately looking for audio producers
Right.
that have a background in audio and are good in project management. And that would be, for example, for you, a perfect opportunity.
It
Let's
would,
say
yeah.
you meet that director who needs that right now,
Yeah.
and he knows that you want to get into sound design, but he also sees like how you interact with him, your personality. Okay, you could fit in a team. You have all those skills from IT. So this would be the perfect person, and then giving you the opportunity to learn from the people that you are now
Yeah.
working with in your free time.
And maybe expand
or-
into another
Yeah,
area.
Exactly. So having that in mind, he could have the skill at hand that he needs right now, and then giving you the opportunity to learn at the side. And then maybe if someone else comes up who could take over your role, you could then transfer into a junior position as a sound designer at Bethesda, for example.
For example, correct, yeah.
So to finish off, I think the real skill and tool someone needs to have is to be kind of realistic about themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and also being able to show people who they are.
Yeah.
Because
Authenticity.
because then you have a real chance to someone considering you as a part of a team or filling up a role. And the skill set is, of course, always there. If you want to do sound design, you need to be able to do sound design. That's clear.
Sure.
But on the other hand, getting someone to really know who you are is then equally or even more important, because everyone who applies for a sound design job, I assume this person can do sound design.
Yeah.
But then I need to focus on who is this person? Does they fit into the team, or what do they really bring to the table? And therefore, making show reels, I always suggest people to bring in themselves, show their face if they're
they
comfortable with it,
Mhm.
and all these things, so that someone who looks at your show reel, for maybe the show reel is 60 seconds, maybe they only watch the first 30 seconds. So I want to see something like, okay, this is Reuven, this is how he appears, how he sounds, what the vibe you give, you know?
Yeah, sure.
It's like that is something I want to have. And then I also want to listen, of course, to your sounds and what taste you have. So if you can deliver both of that in the first 10 seconds, that's already a big win for everyone who wants to make a show reel.
Well, actually, I'm going to take that on board, what you've just said. And because I still haven't made my show reel, I've got lots of videos of the work I've done, but they're full length, either 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I need to make some kind of show reel. And my thinking along those lines is have an introduction to each piece through myself. So I'm introducing each show reel so they understand my presentation skills, they see what I'm like, and maybe at the beginning do a little introduction about me and something along those lines.
That would be something that gives already more than just your sound skills and taste.
Yes.
And shows off your personality. Maybe there is even a more creative way to incorporate that. You know, to get it really stick within the first couple of seconds, let's say in the first 20 seconds, that you already like show your personality, you show your skills, and you show also maybe you're thinking out of the box and your creativity. So these things I would look for.
So maybe something along the lines of what you do on a regular basis with your reels, but something like that for 20 seconds. So kind of have in the background something that I'm working on and say, okay, this is my process. So I'm going to do this and run them through the process and show them also what you're actually clicking, hitting and doing in a short period of time. So they get an understanding of not only how does he come across as a person, but is he able to, use the tools appropriately.
For example, Ben Jacquier, who is a sound designer from France.
Yeah, I follow that guy. He's amazing.
I did a podcast with him as well.
Right.
For example, he pursued his career only through those kind of videos. He never went to Paris and stayed there for many years and interned at the studios and made his connection there. This was kind of my path when I was in Berlin for many years.
Right.
He managed to get a career just with his videos, sitting in the mountains of France, in his little village, being a musician himself. I also do my videos because it's a kind of a self-promotion.
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to convince people that they could hire me as well as a Foley artist. As much as I enjoy sharing my knowledge, and I see this is a very important thing to do, still the strategy is kind of giving a show reel, that is constantly going on, that I'm making a show reel every day. Yeah? I don't have a set show reel that I would send someone off. I would just rather forward them my Instagram link and say, look there, this is my show reel.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to do something along those lines with my music, with my production, where I show people, especially at the beginning of when I've got like a little loop going and I'm really hyped into that idea, I'll do a little video so they get to see that. But I could incorporate that also in these professional show reels so people see more of a, I wouldn't say humorous side, but a more relaxed musical production side of me too. So they don't just see the Foley guy or the sound effect guy sitting in front of the computer, but they see Reuven as a producer.
Yeah, the whole picture.
Yes.
Just have to make it interesting and appealing and,
Yeah.
in a way that really works as an introduction, and as long as it's not boring, and I think this is all great.
Yep, definitely. Something to look into and work more on, definitely, as the time goes by.
All right. Thank you so much for helping me again today, cleaning up this mess I created throughout the last couple of weeks.
Yep, thank you. No worries. Anytime, Bastian. And t-shirt's still white, by the way.
Yeah, we did a story today in the beginning, yeah? Helping me cleaning up, and then the t-shirt, the white shirt, I should have informed you.
Not to worry. We did it at the end, and the results, even though you can't see out there, the results speak themselves.
Yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All the best for your career.
Cheers.
I really appreciate that you listened up until the end. If you haven't hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you watch or listen this, please do so now, because it helps the channel to grow, and I see a lot of value in Pro Audio Secrets for the whole Pro Audio community, especially to people who want to start out in the industry and looking for their first role or their first paid gig. Definitely look into finding your own voice in sound. That can change over time, but look at what it is now and then take a step towards that and try to elevate this thing that you have within you and get the sound out of yourself, your unique sound. That is something you need to find in order to succeed in pro audio, especially these days. And again, this can change over time, but you have to start looking within yourself what's really the thing that you can provide for the world in terms of your sound, okay? If you're looking for more advice like that, please feel free to reach out to me via DM on Instagram, comment the word industry, and then you can book a free mentorship call with me. We're also building Pro Audio Academy up from the ground right now, and you can join that as a beta tester, or later on, once it's rolled out, you can just come in and learn with us. Thanks for watching. Maybe watch another one now or later. See you then. Thanks. Peace, the Foley Teacher.